Alright guys, I do just a basic Facebook post after each tournament to kind of update you on the tournament, but I'm going to do a video for this one because there's a lot to talk about. So if you don't have, I don't know how long it's going to take, a few minutes. If you got a few extra minutes, watch it. If not, I guess I'll tell you the story when I see you. But the tournament was on Cherokee down in Tennessee. I had been on Pickwick for 4 or 5 days before that, practicing for the Bass Nation Championship, which I'll leave for here in a few days. Fishing on Pickwick was really tough. I got to Cherokee, and it was really, really rough. And looking at past tournaments from the last few weeks, it hadn't been taking a whole lot of weight to do well. I'm talking 8-9 pounds a day in 5-fish tournaments to make a top 10 a lot of times. So I got to the lake. I was excited to get there. Smallmouth, largemouth, spotted bass. I had planned on primarily trying to target smallmouth because that's what I prefer to fish when possible. Got to the lake. First morning I put the boat in. It was really foggy, so I kind of went around the corner on this little point, and I'm not kidding. The second cast I made when I was there, I caught one close to 4 pounds of largemouth. So I was pretty excited. 10 hours later in the day, that was the only keeper I had caught. The next day I went out, I caught 2 keepers. So I was really starting to realize how tough it was. It was the third day. I found a little area where I had caught a few nice largemouth, like 16-inch largemouth. They got to be 15 to keep down there. 15 inches. Largemouth and smallmouth. Spotted bass have to be 12 inches. So I decided right then and there, in my position in the points, being 7th place, top 4 advanced to the elites, I decided to kind of abort the smallmouth plan and concentrate on fishing for largemouth in this one area. There was kind of 2 creeks in this one area, and I just decided to spend the next 2 or 3 days dissecting everything I could in those creeks, so I wasn't running around a lot. And I knew every little piece of cover I could possibly catch a keeper, because getting 5 fish a day, whether they were 12.5-inch spots or 15-inch largemouth or smallmouth, was going to go a long ways. Not only in the tournament, but in the point standings. So I spent the next almost 3 days in those 2 creek arms really figuring out what I needed to throw and what I needed to be fishing to get keeper bites. And honestly, by the end of the second day I was in there, I felt pretty good about being able to get a limit of spotted bass and largemouth mixed. I was catching both. Not that I was getting a lot, but every day I went in there, and it was a pretty big area, and every day that I went in there I kind of explored new parts of it, and I would catch them every day. So I really had dialed in what I thought was a pretty good approach between throwing top water in the morning, and then I was throwing a 1/4-ounce Super K swim jig pretty much the rest of the day, jerk bait a little bit, drop shot a little bit, shaky head some, but mainly a swim jig, a crankbait a little bit, and top water in the morning, just covering water. That was the key, was to cover water, which is usually not my style. Usually, I'm fishing specific targets where I make a cast or two, and I know if the fish are there. That's not how I was fishing. I was going down the bank like a Jim Jack trying to get a bite. That was the whole key to what I was doing. So I felt like I had those creeks figured out pretty good. I honestly didn't think it'd be a huge deal to get a limit. Now, the key little area that I had found, the quote-unquote hot zone, was tricky to get into. There was a little rock saddle that ran across this pocket, and when I had found it, it was the third day of practice, and I was able just to troll right over it. I mean, I could see the rocks, I could kind of snake through them, no big deal. Well then, throughout the week I'd been talking to this local guy at the landing who was fishing the tournament, and who actually ended up getting second. His name's Josh Rourke. I didn't know who it was at the time, but he lived right on the lake, and he kind of told me, he's like, yeah, they're dropping the water 6 to 10 inches a day. So I kind of started thinking about it, And that day he told me that, I went right around the corner at the landing where I had caught that big largemouth, and that was kind of, there was a little pocket, and then there was a little trough that ran out. It had, water in it, a little trough that ran out into the main lake, and that's where I caught that big fish. Well, I looked at that, and that trough was now 1.5 feet out of the water. So it kind of got me concerned because I hadn't been back by the hot zone since that day. That day I'd found it. So the second to last day of practice, I went back there and I could barely get in there. And that was good conditions where it was calm and I could see and I was able to navigate through there. So I was pretty worried. The next day, which was the last day of practice, we had to be off the water at noon. So at 11:15, I went back there and looked, and I was pretty certain I couldn't get in there. It just had dropped again, and it would have been really sketchy. Well, as fate would have it, it started to rain pretty hard. And once again, this Josh Rourke guy, who obviously knows what he got second in the tournament, and he's won a lot of money down there, so he kind of knows. So he told me, he said, well, if it rains, the water's going to come up. It's going to come up enough, where you'll be able to get back to some places. So that's kind of what I was banking on. And I was banking on topwater bite in the morning. I really had hoped to get 2 or 3 of them fish in the morning and then grind out the last 2 throughout the day. So I drew about 118. So I didn't get out until, I didn't get getting running to where I was going until, I suppose, 8:15. I had a 20-mile run. It was really windy. It was raining really hard, really low visibility. It was hard to run, especially not being very familiar with the water. But anyhow, I got up there. The water was muddy, and the water was high. I got in there fine. The water was pretty dirty, so I kind of abandoned the topwater early and just went right to the swim jig. And I started catching them right away in there, but they were all short, which was weird to me, because I knew there was good ones in there, and I didn't hardly catch any little ones in there in practice. So I fished through there for a couple hours, didn't get anything. Still wasn't in panic mode yet. Went and started running the banks I'd been getting them on, which the water was dirty, which I wanted the water to be stained. That was kind of a key thing for them largemouth. And I caught plenty of fish, but I could not catch a keeper. And I weighed in at 5:10. That was the time I had to be back. Keep in mind, I'm 20 miles from takeoff. Windy weather, rough water. So my partner caught my co-angler caught one small keeper, 12-inch spot. And 145, I didn't have a fish. 145, I caught my first keeper, about a 13.5-inch spotted bass. So it kind of reinvigorated me. And the sun had come out, and my co-angler told me, he said, when the sun had come out in practice, we were getting them in those rocks like you were fishing. When the sun came out, he's like, we should maybe go back into the hot zone. So I said, okay, let's go in there. We go in there, and right away I catch like a 3-pound smallmouth, which I hadn't seen a smallmouth in there the day that I was in there. I didn't know they were in there, but it was a good one. And then my co-angler caught 2 really nice smallies. And then I got a nice largemouth, and then I filled out my limit with 2 spotted bass. So I had 3 spotted bass, 1 really nice smallmouth, and 1 nice largemouth, 16-inch largemouth. So we stayed in there till about, 4:15 we tried to get out. Prior in the day, my hot foot cable spring had broken. So it was really hard for me to drive with no tension on my hot foot throttle. So trying to get out, what happened was it was really windy, the water was dirty, and there was a really narrow channel you had to stay in to get in and out of this place. Well, I got off that channel, and we got hung up on a rock really bad. Like, we couldn't get off push-pulling, troll motor. We could not get off of it. And I thought I'd give myself plenty of time to get out. Well, as it turned out, we were hung up on that rock, and it was about 4:30 when we got hung up. So we still had a little bit of time. And we tried everything. We could not get off of that rock. And at that point, it was about 4:45. And I said, well, stand up on the front deck, put your life jacket on. I'm just gonna trim the motor down. It was mostly red clay, and then there was big boulders. So the motor, where the motor was, it was just clay. So I put the jack plate up, trimmed the motor down, and stomped on the throttle as hard as I could, and that thing popped off the rock. And when we got off that rock, it was 450. So we had 20 minutes to run 20 miles, and it wasn't super smooth. It was pretty windy. So I put the boat on plane in some pretty sketchy areas just to get, that was all I had. My whole season was on the line. It was either push it, try to get back, take some chances, or throw away a pretty good season in the Bassmaster Opens. Throw away a shot at making the elites in 2021. So I stomped on the throttle, got around the corner, got around the main lake, and I could only run 60 miles an hour. I'm assuming because of the hot foot throttle. I don't know. I could only run 60 miles an hour. So I started cutting through islands, taking the straightest track I could get to get back, and once again taking chances. I didn't know if I was going to hit a rock, but I didn't have a choice. It was do or die. So end of the day, we got back at 5:08. So we got back with 2 minutes to spare. Salvaged the day, had 9 pounds. I was in 15th place, which I was really happy with the way the day went. My partner, he was in 7th, I think, after the first day, or 8th. He had a decent bag too, so he was up there in the top 10, I know. So I was happy. I felt good about it the next day. I told myself I need to catch 5 or 6 pounds just to get a check, which I don't even care about getting a check, just to stay in the points race. And I'd moved up to 3rd place after the first day. I was in 7th. So got everything ready that night, go there the next morning. I had an early draw then. I was about 43, so I felt, all right, I'm going to get up there. The wind's not as bad. Hopefully it didn't blow that bad at night, and the water cleaned up a little bit in the hot zone, and they would eat the top water. Because I knew there were still a lot of good ones in there. So we're getting lined up for takeoff. They're doing just getting ready to do the national anthem, and 2 guys in the tournament were next to me talking, and they said, "Yeah, my trolling motor cables broke yesterday." I'm like, "Oh, that sucks, And I'm not kidding. I went, and as soon as you said that, I stepped on my foot pedal, my trolling motor, and the cables were broke. This is at 7:43. We take off at 7:45. So I'm completely panicked. The week before, the board went out in the pedal. I had to replace that. Now the cables break in the most critical moment of my fishing, I don't know if you'd call it a career or whatever, fishing dream. So I ran my boat up on the bank, jumped off the front of my boat, ran up there trying to find somebody to help me out, because Minn Kota has service people at these tournaments. I just happened to find a guy from Skeeter Boats who had helped me the day before with my hot foot throttle. He was sitting in his truck watching the takeoff. Well, the guy sitting with him in his truck was the Minn Kota guy. So I asked him, "Can you help me out? I need to get out there. I'm doing good in points, doing good in the tournament." Well, they were a little bit reluctant at first. They told me, "Well, you got to get your boat out of the water." I said, "Well, my trailer's 10 miles up the lake. I'm not getting the boat out of the water. Can you pull the truck down and get this thing fixed? I got to get out there and at least catch some fish." So I convinced them to help me. They go get the stuff. They come back. I'm just going to replace the whole pedal and cables and everything, but it took about an hour. And even when they got it in there, it wasn't in there right. It wasn't in tune. It was slopping the cable, but it worked for the day. So at that point, everybody's gone. It's an hour into the day. I felt like topwater bite was going to be done for me. The second day of practice, I had found this little brush pile by takeoff. Caught a good one out of it. Obviously didn't get a chance to fish it the first day. So my instincts kind of kicked in, and I said, I'm just going to go over there and take a couple casts at it. It'll take me 5 minutes. But if nobody fished it, maybe I can catch one off it. I had no idea, because I had fished 100 brush piles throughout the week, and I'd catch one here and there, but it wasn't super consistent. I did get some nice ones, but it was super inconsistent. So anyhow, I pull up there. I'm already kind of obviously spinning out, a lot on the line, and my second cast I catch like an 18-incher. A really, really good one. So I catch an 18-incher right away, which just calmed me down. And it's 2 3/4 pound fish. So right then and there, I thought, all right, even with that one fish, I'm not gonna slip that much in the standings. Just as tight as the weights were and low as the weights were. So ran up to the hot zone, get in there fine, and I was fishing completely different than the day before. I was mellow, I was being really precise, throwing that swim jig in these boulders and just really paying attention, really fishing slow like I needed to do in that area. First bite I get, about a 16-inch largemouth. Get him in the boat. All right, I got 2. Go a little bit further, get about a 17-incher. So now I got 3, and this is in the first, hour and 45 minutes that I was fishing. So it started really good, and honestly, when I had those 3, I felt like, okay, I probably got 6 pounds in there, maybe a little more. Like I'm in good shape. Now just mellow out, fish the rest of the day. I had to be in at 4 o'clock, concentrate, get 2 more bites, get them in the boat, and you'll be fine. I end up losing a nice largemouth, just on the swim jig, bad angle, came off. Still was okay. Ended up catching one more keeper spotted bass in there, like a 13.5-incher, so I had 4. I was a little paranoid about getting out of there because of what happened the day before, so I left at 2 o'clock. I got out of the hot zone, and I had some stuff I wanted to run in the same area. The day before, I had lost a really nice spot out of this spotted bass out of this tree on a jerkbait. Came up, ate it, so I'm like, I'm going to go back there, see if I can get them. Go back there, throw the jerkbait up there, catch a little one, but when I catch them, there's 2 or 3 other ones with it that were nice. So I slowed down, throw a drop shot in there, hook them, good one, 15, 16-inch spotted bass, like a really good one. Gets wrapped up in the tree, end up breaking them off. So at that point, I was happy, but I was bummed because I had 2 opportunities to fill a limit with good fish and gain an extra 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds. And I wanted to be leaving that area at 3 o'clock because I had, a 20-mile run. I had fish in the box that were going to keep me in good standings. So I had time to fish about 1 more spot in there. So I pull up in this I was getting him on these clay banks with small drains that ran out, little ditches. I get into one of those ditches, I catch like a 12 and a 1/8-inch spot. I mean, barely a keeper, maybe weighed 12 ounces, but I was super pumped to have them. So I had 5 fish, maybe 8 pounds, 9 pounds, I don't know. It was a little after 3. I'm like, I'm going to run back and I'm going to fish that brush pile again. Because when I caught that one in practice, there was at least 2 other ones that came up with it that were the same size. So I thought, well, if it's not getting fished, it's in a good area, maybe I can get another couple more on it. So I run back there. I get back there about 3:35. I had 25 minutes, but it was close to takeoff. I get set up on it. Second or third cast, I get a bite, set the hook, and it's a big one. And I fight him, get him in the boat. It's like a 19-incher, legitimate 3-pounder. It was, like I say, it was long. They're long and skinny, but it was definitely over 3 pounds. So I was jacked. I mean, I threw back a 12-inch spotted bass for a big largemouth. And at that point, I thought, if I get one more of the fish off of this pile, I'm going to be fishing the next day. And honestly, I thought with what I had, I got a good chance of making the cut because I won't, I didn't know what I had, but I figured it was close to 11 pounds. So I didn't end up getting another bite, go to weigh in. Ended up, missing the cut by a pound again. Same on Hartwell. Missed the cut by a pound. Did I have the bites to make up that pound? Yep, between the 2 days I did. But what do you do with all the adversity I dealt with? Getting stuck. Broken throttle on my hot foot. Breaking the trolling motor cable. Getting out an hour late. I mean, I'm super happy with the outcome. I'm bummed I didn't make the cut because I think if I make the cut, honestly, if I make the cut on Hartwell or I make the cut here, I really think I could have had a good chance of moving up a lot because of the conditions and what was happening and what I had kind of built on throughout that tournament. I was just super confident I was going to get the bites that I needed, not to win. There's no way I would have won unless there was some sort of miracle, but I think I could have had a good chance of moving up. So either way, End up 15th in the tournament. Second 15th place finish in a row. I got 23rd at the first one in Florida. So I'm sitting third overall in points in the Easterns, which is good. You got to be in the top 4. Patrick Walters, who's leading, is already elite qualified, so that frees up another spot. So technically I would be in second place. I'm in good position to have a chance at making the elites in 2021, but I still got a lot of work to do. I have to catch them on Lay Lake. I don't know where I need to finish. I'm not worried about I got to get 50th or whatever. All I'm worried about is getting 5 fish each day on Lay Lake and see what happens. So that's kind of the rundown of my week, my tournament. It just kind of goes to show a lot of things can happen. And if you look back at that podcast I did for Next Level Podcast, I talk a lot about mental preparation, mental strength, just not spinning out, keeping focused. And my buddy Mike Wilmoth, who I call him every day at practice, and he told me, he said, if you end up making the elites, if you're going to look back on that first day on Cherokee, and that is going to be the breaking point. That is going to be the day that made the difference. Rallying at the end of the day, getting a limit, getting stuck, somehow getting out, getting back. I mean, that was a huge, huge turning point in the year. I only had 9 pounds, but if I don't get back, I mean, the whole year's shot. I might as well pack it in. I mean, there's no way to recover that. So, super thankful. Looking forward to Lay Lake. I'm leaving for Pickwick for the Bass Nation Championship on Friday. So I have to get all my stuff ready. I drove all the way back on Saturday morning. I got back Saturday night like 7 o'clock. I got to bring my boat down to the boat center again, have the boys work on it. They've been taking care of me really well. Justin, Brenton, and then Travis. He's been awesome. I mean, he's been taking care of everything I need to on that boat because it's been getting worked hard. And yeah, I'm going to have them look at it again, get my trolling motor set up right, and then I'm leaving Friday. That tournament starts the 11th. 11th through the 13th. Top 3 go to the Classic. If you win, I think you get an automatic berth in the elites. I had tough practice down there too, but anything can happen. I think there's only 50-some boats, so we'll go down there, fish. I'm going to drive back after that. I'll be home for probably a week and a half, 2 weeks, maybe hunt a couple days, hang out with Brittany and Gunner, and then drive back to Lay Lake in Alabama. That tournament starts December 3rd through 5th, and then cross my fingers and hope I finish strong. So anyhow, I just want to give you a rundown of the video instead of typing it all out. If you end up watching the whole thing, thanks. Keep following along. I'll try to keep posting more stuff, trying to get better at that. Thanks to everybody who sent me messages. If I didn't get back to you, I will at some point, but I really appreciate all the texts and messages on Facebook. It makes me feel pretty good to know I got a lot of support from people. So thanks a lot. Thanks for watching.